Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Let's start the lesson. Okay. Yeah. So in the last class, we were doing the Makharij from the Shafatan, the Khayshum, and the Jawfidahan. We have done these three Makharij in our last class. Inshallah, we will be doing the Makharij al-Lisan today. And I think yeah, okay, so this makhraj is going to be a very long makhraj. So just because of that, we won't have time to revise the previous ones. Okay? So let's start with the dua. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي رب زدني علما رب زدني علما رب زدني علما اللهم فكهنا في الدين اللهم فكهنا في الدين اللهم فكهنا في الدين. Okay, I'm pretty much sure that we did the Khayshum and Jof at Dahan both in our previous Friday class. But if something is missing, inshallah, we will be doing it again. But the revision will be in our next week's class. So let's start the lisan. Before we start the lisan, let's talk about what do we call the lisan in Arabic. Oh, sorry, the English, because the lisan is Arabic term, right? And the lisan is called as tongue in English. So we have learned a few other parts. So lisan is going to be the last part, inshallah. That is the main makhraj. We have done the halaq for the throat, shafatan for the lips, khayshum the nasal cavity, and jawf ad-dahan oral cavity. Now we are left with lisan only. Lisan is going to be the tongue. The tongue is going to be pronouncing so many letters. First, we are going to discuss its five parts. Five parts from a lisan. And then there are some other letters that are being pronounced from the lisan. But just because those letters are going to be involving our teeth, for the pronunciation. So for that, inshallah, we will be doing the teeth parts in the next class so that we can understand the teeth as well, their names, so that it becomes easier for us to memorize. So let's talk about the five parts of lisan. Let me draw the diagram as well, side by side. Okay, so this is how our lisan looks like, right? This is the back part of our lisan. One second. Okay, this is how our lisan looks like. This is the part of the tongue of the lisan that is present at the back of our mouth, right? And just because it is far away from our mouth, we name it as aqsa lisan. Aqsa, the word that we used for our halaq as well, because the aqsa halaq was the part of the halaq, the throat that was far away from our mouth, right? So aqsa is the same word that are we going to use for the back of our tongue. So back of our tongue, aqsa lisan. Aqsa for back and lisan for tongue. So this is the back part, that is aqsa lisan. Let's write it. It's aqsa lisan. Then we have, okay. Yeah, now then we have the next part that is present. Once again. Okay, yeah. That is present right in the middle, right? So when we talk about middle is called as wast, right? So wast or middle. Wast is Arabic term and middle is English. So wast is the middle of our lisan, of our tongue. Wastul lisan, middle part of our tongue. These are the two parts. Then we have one more that is basically the tip of our tongue. The tip of our tongue is called as ras. It's raw, hamza and sin. Okay. Yeah. Ras means tip. Okay. So rasul lisan is basically the tip of our tongue. Okay. These are the three parts. We have two more. We have one that is present just like the sides of the lisan of the tongue that are present right on the both sides of our middle of our tongue. Okay, so it's going to be covering the sides of our lisan that are closer to the Ra'sul lisan and Wastul lisan. This part we call it as Tarf al-lisan. Tarf basically used for sides in English. Okay? Tarf in Arabic and sides in English. So basically the sides of the middle part of our tongue. And then we have one more that is basically the sides that are present at the back of our tongue. And these sides are called as halfa. Okay, halfa lisan are basically the sides of our tongue that are present around the back corner of our tongue. These are the 5 names of our tongue, if anybody is having any confusion. Okay, so these are the 5 names. Let's talk about the pronunciations of the letters from each and every part. We will be starting from the very first or the very back of our tongue. This is the part that is going to be pronouncing the letters Qaf and the letter Kaf. Qaf and Kaf are the 2 letters that are pronounced from the back of our tongue. Qaf is going to be a heavier letter and the Kaf is going to be a lighter letter. Okay? Kaf is with the K pronunciation and Qaf is with the Q pronunciation. When we have to pronounce the heavy letters, we have to lift the back of our tongue upwards. Qaf. And when we pronounce the letter Kaf, the back of our tongue is not going to be lifted upwards, but it's going to be like still. It's not going to be lifting upwards. It's going to be in our normal position. Pronounce it Qaf, Kaf. Then we have the middle part. This middle part is going to pronounce 3 letters. The letter Jim, Sheen, and the letter Ya. So when we pronounce the letter Ya from our middle part of our tongue, this is the Ya that is not going to be madda, right? Because the Ya with the madda is pronounced from our oral cavity that we have already discussed. So Ya is going to pronounce with the zabar or z, like any sign above or below the Ya. In that very situation, we are going to pronounce the Ya from the middle of our tongue. Okay? And then we have the Ra'sul lisan. Ra'sul lisan, from the Ra's, we are going to pronounce the letter Ra. Only Ra is going to be pronounced from the Ra'sul lisan, from the tip of our tongue, without involving any teeth. Because this part is going to be used to pronounce a group of 9 letters as well. But for that, we will be using our teeth, front 2 teeth and upper and lower. So without involving any teeth, we will be pronouncing only the letter Ra from our tip of the tongue. And to pronounce the letter Ra, you just have to fold your tongue, the tip of your tongue, a bit more upwards to make the sound of the Ra heavy. Do you remember that the Ra is pronounced heavy and light sometimes? So when it's pronounced heavy, it should have the zabar or the pesh that we call as fatha and dhamma. But when we have to pronounce it lighter, it should have the kasra or the zair, the one that always comes below the letter. Okay? If the Ra is having the zair, it's going to be pronounced with the lighter sound. But if it is having the zabar or pesh, it's going to be heavier. And to pronounce it heavier, it should be, the tip of our tongue should be folding backwards to the, back. It should be touching the part that is present at the back of our front 2 teeth. Okay? Raw. Pronounce it raw. Next one is Tarf al-lisan. Tarf al-lisan is going to be pronouncing 2 letters. But these 2 letters are again going to be using the teeth. So the letter lam and noon are going to be pronounced from the tarf al-lisan. to pronounce the lam and noon, basically what you have to do is you have to touch this part with the teeth that represent right next to it. So there are two front teeth, and then we have two teeth over here, and then two more. So the one that are in pointed shape and the one that are in a regular shape right next to our front two, they both are going to be used to pronounce lam and noon. Okay? So here we pronounce the lam and noon, and then, oh, 1 second. I guess it's okay. Yeah. So then we have the hafa al-lisan. Hafa is the part that is present right next to the back corner of our tongue, right? So hafa al-lisan is going to pronounce only one letter, that is dod. Dod is going to pronounce heavier. This is a heavy letter. And to pronounce the dod, what you have to do is you have to spread your back part of your tongue in between your both sides of the teeth. Like there's a pair of three teeth that are called as, I think, molars or premolars. I'm not sure. Inshallah, we will be discussing them in our next class because I don't really remember their English names, but in Arabic we call them as tawahin because these are a group of three teeth on both sides. So when you are pronouncing the dod, you just have to spread the back of your tongue in between all these three teeth. Okay? This is how we pronounce the dod from hafa lisan, basically the sides that represent at the back of our tongue. And then from tarf al-lisan, basically the sides that represent beside the middle part, we are going to pronounce two letters, lam and noon. And to pronounce aqsa lisan is going to be pronouncing qaf and kaf, one heavy and one lighter letter. Qaf is heavy and kaf is the lighter pronunciation. To pronounce the heavy sound of qaf, you have to lift the back of your tongue upwards. And to pronounce the kaf, the tongue is going to be in our normal position. Okay? Then we have the wast al-lisan, that is basically the middle part. And the middle part is going to pronounce jim, sheen, ya. When you will be pronouncing jim, sheen, ya, you will feel a bit of stress on the middle part of your tongue, making it forcing downwards. And then we have ra's al-lisan, that is going to be pronouncing the ra's, the tip of our tongue, only raw without involving any teeth. The raw is going to be pronounced from that part. But if we involve our teeth with the ra's al-lisan, there are going to be 9 letters in the group of 3. Okay? Inshallah, we will be discussing them in our next class to understand them well. I hope the 5 parts of al-lisan are clear to you guys. There was one question that was that how are we going to introduce the heavy letters and the lighter letters to the kids? So if we have the heavy letters and the lighter letters, basically when we will be done with all the makharij, inshallah, hopefully not next, but after the next class, we will be done with the pronunciation of all the letters. In that very class, we will discuss the heavy letters. And except for those heavy letters, it's like is a group of 6 or 7 letters that are pronounced heavy. So other than that, all the letters are going to be lighter. And along with that, we have a group of whistling letters as well. So it's not only a group of heavy and lighter, not 2 groups, but basically 3 groups. One is with a whistling sound that you have to be very careful. And then there's the heavy letters, and then there are normal letters. So heavy letters are going to be very easy to pronounce once we memorize them. And once we know the pronunciations, the origins of their pronunciation. Inshallah, it would be very easy. But we will make the different charts so that we can identify them just by looking at them. Okay? And just like the right letter raw, we have sometimes some pronunciations are going to be heavy and lighter for that same letter. We will be discussing that inshallah again. So for today, Our lesson is completed over here. We have done the lisan only, not involving any isnan, any teeth, and we discussed the five parts. I hope everything is clear to you guys. And if anybody is having any confusion, we can do it, inshallah, in the next class or in the group maybe. And along with that, okay, yeah, along with that, if we have any confusion from our previous lessons, we will try to do them, inshallah, in the next class. Because the lesson is going to be more, so we cannot discuss more things to not make any confusion. Okay, we are done with the lesson over here. Inshallah, see you all in the next class. Let's end the lesson with the dua. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika. نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك 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 ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.